The warning shot. The Meridian colony never stood a chance against pirates. At least, that's what everyone thought. Nestled in the outer rim, the peaceful Aetherian settlement had thrived for centuries, its crystalline spires reaching toward distant stars. The colonists, with their gossamer-like bodies and advanced biotechnology, had never needed weapons. They had the Galactic Assembly's protection, after all. But when the Crimson Cartel's raiding fleet dropped out of hyperspace, that protection was nowhere to be found. 50 predatory vessels, bristling with weapons, descended upon the helpless world. The pirates had chosen their target well. The Aetherians' biochemical compounds would fetch astronomical prices on the black market. Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth security vessel Vigilant wasn't supposed to be there. Her ship was merely passing through, conducting routine patrol duties in what humans considered unclaimed space. The Assembly hadn't even officially recognized Earth's right to patrol these sectors. But when the distress call came through, Chen didn't hesitate. "Battle stations," she ordered, her voice calm despite the odds. The Vigilant's crew moved with practiced efficiency, the product of countless drills and humanity's long history of warfare. Engineering: divert power to forward shields. Weapons: prepare to engage multiple targets. Navigation: plot me an intercept course that keeps us between those pirates and the colony. The Vigilant was outnumbered 50 to 1. To any other species in the galaxy, such odds would have meant certain defeat. But this was a human warship, and humanity had long ago learned that ships were won by quality, not quantity. As the pirate fleet approached, they broadcast the usual demands: surrender, pay tribute, or be destroyed. Captain Chen's response was simple: "This is your only warning. Leave this system or be eliminated." The pirates, of course, laughed. Their leader, a notorious Drokin named Kraz Full, had never lost a battle. His fleet had ransacked dozens of colonies. What could one ship do? They found out moments later when the Vigilant opened fire. Human warships were different. Where other species built vessels to disable or capture, humanity constructed ships to end fights decisively. The Vigilant's main cannon fired a concentrated burst of plasma that cut through 3 pirate vessels in a single shot. Its point defense grid tracked and eliminated incoming missiles with impossible precision. Adaptive shield frequencies neutralized enemy energy weapons. But it wasn't just the technology that made human ships lethal. It was the philosophy behind their use. Captain Chen didn't fight to disable or negotiate. She fought to win, employing tactics that left the pirates reeling. The Vigilant moved like a predator, each maneuver calculated to maximize damage while minimizing exposure. Within 15 minutes, half the pirate fleet was destroyed. Within 20, Krasthul's flagship was drifting powerless in space. The remaining pirates fled in terror, leaving their leader behind. The Aetherian colony was saved, but the ripples of this encounter would spread far beyond the outer rim. Recording devices had captured everything. A single human warship decimating a fleet that could have threatened a core world. The footage spread across the galaxy, inspiring both awe and fear. In the assembly chambers on Capital Prime, representatives watched the battle with growing concern. They saw efficiency that bordered on ruthlessness, technology that seemed almost prescient in its capability to counter threats, and tactical doctrine that left no room for the traditional dance of space combat. "They'd fight like their ships are extensions of themselves," one delegate observed. "No hesitation, no restraint, just pure lethality." "But they saved the colony," another argued, "without breaking a single assembly law." This time, a third voice added, "But what happens when they decide to use that power for more than defense? What happens when humanity decides to expand?" The debate would rage for weeks, but one thing was clear: humanity's approach to warfare had changed the galaxy forever. The question now was whether that change would bring peace through strength, or if human warships would become the very threat they were built to counter. Back on the Vigilant, Captain Chen finished her report to Earth Command. She knew the political storm this would cause, but she didn't regret her actions. Sometimes the galaxy needed to be reminded that peace wasn't maintained by good intentions alone. Sometimes it needed ships like hers, crews like hers, and the will to use them. As she looked out at the grateful Aetherian colony, their crystalline cities still standing proud against the starfield, she knew that humanity's path, however controversial, was the right one. The galaxy might fear their ships, but they would respect what those ships stood for: the unwavering defense of those who couldn't defend themselves. Bureaucracy and battleships. Ambassador Diana Walsh had spent 15 years representing Earth in the Galactic Assembly. She'd negotiated trade agreements, settled territorial disputes, and helped integrate humanity into the wider galactic community. But as she stood before the Assembly's Emergency Council, she knew this would be her hardest battle yet. "Distinguished delegates," she began, her voice carrying across the vast chamber. "I understand your concerns about human warship capabilities, but I must emphasize that the vigilance actions at Meridian Colony exemplify exactly why we build our ships this way." The council chamber, a soaring edifice of living crystal and light, hummed with murmured disagreements. Thousands of species were represented here, from the energy-based Quinteri to the silicon-structured Petrovarans. None of them seemed comfortable with humanity's approach to naval combat. High Counselor Zixtal, a being of pure thought housed in a crystalline matrix, pulsed with concerned colors. "Ambassador, your ship destroyed 25 vessels and disabled 20 more in under 20 minutes. The level of combat efficiency displayed exceeds anything in our records. Many members view this as disturbing." "What's disturbing," Walsh countered, "is that pirates felt confident enough to attack a peaceful colony with 50 ships. Where was the Assembly's protection fleet? How many other colonies are vulnerable while we debate the ethics of defending them?" The chamber erupted in overlapping voices and telepathic projections. Walsh had struck a nerve. The Assembly's peacekeeping forces were stretched thin, and everyone knew it. But admitting that would mean acknowledging the need for humanity's military strength. Admiral Chorus of the Centaurian Confederation, a longtime ally of Earth, raised his four-armed salute for attention. "If I may speak, I have served alongside human vessels. Their power is undeniable, but so is their discipline. In every joint operation, they've shown remarkable restraint when less lethal options were viable." Restraint. A Moravian delegate's tentacles writhed in agitation. Their ships are designed to end battles immediately through overwhelming force. This violates centuries of naval tradition. Walsh couldn't help but laugh, earning shocked looks from the Assembly. "Forgive me, but that's precisely the point. Humanity's naval tradition is about minimizing prolonged conflict. Every study shows that extended space battles lead to higher casualties, more civilian deaths, and greater economic damage. We build our ships to end fights quickly because that saves lives." As the debate continued, Walsh's secure communicator vibrated. The message was brief but concerning. Long-range sensors had detected something massive moving through the outer void, consuming everything in its path. The Assembly's standard patrol fleets were keeping their distance, unable to even approach the phenomenon. Walsh looked up at the arguing delegates with new urgency. Their philosophical debate about human warships might soon become academic in the face of a real threat. But before she could speak, High Counselor Zixtal made an announcement that changed everything. "The Council has reached a preliminary decision," the crystalline being chimed. "Until we can properly assess the implications of human military technology, all Earth vessels above destructive capacity rating 7 are restricted from operating in Assembly space." "That's nearly our entire defense fleet," Walsh protested. "You can't expect us to." "The decision is made," Zixtal interrupted. "Earth may maintain a minimal security force for immediate territorial defense, but your main battle fleet must be confined to your home system. This restriction takes effect immediately." As the chamber erupted in a mix of approval and concern, Walsh typed a quick message back to Earth Command. "They've done it. Full restrictions imposed. Should we tell them what's coming?" The response was immediate. "Not yet. Maintain position. Task Force Shadow is already in place if needed. Walsh allowed herself a small smile. The assembly might restrict their ships, but humanity had learned long ago not to rely solely on official sanctions and bureaucratic approval. Sometimes the greatest strength lay not in the ships you showed, but in the ones you kept hidden. As she left the chamber, Walsh passed Admiral Chorus, who seemed unusually troubled. "They think they've solved the problem," he whispered. "But I fear they've only ensured that when we truly need your ships, they won't be there to save us." "Don't worry, old friend," Walsh replied quietly. "Humanity has a saying, better to have and not need, than need and not have. We'll be ready, one way or another." Meanwhile, in the darkness beyond known space, something ancient and hungry continued its inexorable advance towards civilized space, about to test the Assembly's decision in ways no one could have predicted. The swarm approaches. 6 weeks after the Assembly's restrictions on human warships, the Kilura mining colony went dark. Then the Proxian research station. Then 3 more outer colonies. Each disappearance followed the same pattern. A final transmission describing massive organic-looking vessels, then silence. In the Assembly's Strategic Command Center, Admiral Chorus stared at the holographic display with mounting dread. The entity, now dubbed the Swarm, was methodically consuming everything in its path. Traditional Assembly battle groups had proven worse than useless against it. Their ships simply disappeared into the writhing mass of biomechanical horror. 7th Fleet just reported in, his aide announced. "Complete loss. The Swarm's vessels appear to be digesting our ships for resources." Chorus's secondary hearts clenched. The 7th was their most advanced battle group, equipped with the latest Assembly-approved weapons. Its destruction meant their standard tactics were useless. "Show me the combat footage," he ordered. The holographic display shifted, showing Assembly cruisers engaging the Swarm. Their energy weapons, designed to disable rather than destroy, merely glanced off the organic hulls. Missiles were intercepted by clouds of smaller creatures. Most disturbing was how the Swarm adapted. Each failed attack seemed to make them stronger. "Sir," his aide interrupted, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth." Ambassador Walsh's hologram appeared, her expression grim. "Admiral, I assume you've seen the reports." "Indeed. Your people's analysis." "This isn't a new species, Admiral. It's an ancient one. We found references in the ruins of dead civilizations we studied. The Swarm appears every few million years, consuming everything in its path until the galaxy is picked clean. Then it returns to dark space to hibernate." Chorus felt his scales flatten in shock. Why wasn't this information shared with the Assembly? "We tried. 6 months ago. The Council dismissed it as human paranoia and warmongering. They suggested we were inventing threats to justify our military buildup." The Admiral's command center suddenly erupted with alerts. New contacts were appearing at the edge of monitored space. Hundreds of them. "Multiple swarm formations detected," the tactical officer reported. They're heading for the core worlds." Walsh's hologram flickered. "Admiral, you know what this means. The Assembly's defensive doctrine won't work against this threat. Their ships aren't built for the kind of warfare needed to stop the Swarm." "And yours are," Chorus finished. "But the restrictions can be lifted by emergency vote of the Security Council," Walsh interrupted. "You have that authority, Admiral." Chorus studied the tactical display. The Swarm's advance was methodical, unstoppable. Assembly worlds were evacuating, but there wasn't enough time or ships to save everyone. Their carefully maintained balance of power, their millennia of regulated warfare, none of it had prepared them for this. "Even if I could convince the Council," he said, "your ships are confined to Earth's system. They'd never reach the conflict zone in time." Walsh's smile was knowing. "Are they? Admiral, remember what I said about those ruins we studied. We didn't just find warnings about the Swarm. We found weapons, technology, knowledge. Humanity's ships aren't powerful just because we're aggressive. They're powerful because we knew this day was coming. As if on cue, new signatures appeared on the tactical display. Ships unlike anything in the assembly's database were emerging from hidden positions throughout supposedly empty space. The secret fleet humanity had prepared, waiting for this moment. Task Force Shadow, Walsh explained, positioned throughout the galaxy for exactly this scenario. Ships with crews who volunteered to wait in cryptosleep, hidden from all sensors, ready to defend not just humanity, but all sapient life. Chorus stared at the readings. The human vessels were unlike even the Vigilant. They were larger, more heavily armed, incorporating technology that seemed to merge assembly, human, and ancient principles into something entirely new. The assembly will see this as a betrayal, he warned. A violation of trust. Perhaps, Walsh agreed. But which is worse, breaking their trust or watching billions die because we respected their restrictions? Sometimes, Admiral, the right thing isn't the approved thing. Before Chorus could respond, a new alert sounded. The swarm had changed course. Somehow, they'd detected the human fleet, and they were moving to engage. Admiral, Walsh's voice was steel now. We need that emergency authorization. Our ships can fight the swarm, but not if we have to fight the assembly too. Make your choice. Chorus looked at the tactical display one last time, watching as billions of lives hung in the balance. Then he made the call that would change the galaxy forever. This is Admiral Chorus. By emergency powers invested in me by the Security Council, I hereby authorize the full deployment of all human military assets against the existential threat designated the swarm. May the ancestors forgive us if we're wrong. As he spoke, humanity's hidden fleet began to move. The real war for survival was about to begin. Breaking protocol. Admiral Sarah Chen, once captain of the Vigilant, now commanded something far more formidable. The ESV Prometheus emerged from its hidden dock in the Oort cloud of a dying star system, a vessel that embodied everything the Assembly had feared about human military technology. All Task Force Shadow elements. This is command. She broadcast across the quantum-encrypted network. Execute Operation Firebreak. Weapons-free, unrestricted protocols authorized. Across vast stretches of space, humanity's hidden fleet awakened. Ships that had waited in darkness now blazed to life, their crews emerging from crypto-sleek chambers. These weren't just warships. They were humanity's ultimate contingency plan. Built with technology recovered from civilizations the swarm had destroyed eons ago. The Prometheus itself was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Its hull incorporated living metal that could heal damage. Its weapons drew power directly from artificially created quantum singularities. Most importantly, it carried the fruits of decades of secret research, a weapon designed specifically to combat the swarm. First contact in 5 minutes, her tactical officer reported. Swarm elements are adapting course to intercept. They seem eager. Chen understood why. The swarm was used to easily overwhelming its prey, consuming technology and biological material to grow stronger. But humanity's ships were different. They weren't just weapons. They were bait. All ships implement Gordian Protocol. Chen ordered. Let them get a good taste. The first wave of swarm vessels struck like a tide of living darkness. Organic tendrils lashed out, trying to breach human hulls. Energy weapons that had proved useless against swarm armor now revealed their true purpose, not to destroy, but to attract. They're taking the bait, her science officer confirmed. Swarm organisms are attempting to assimilate our outer hull systems. Chen allowed herself a grim smile. Initiate Phase 2. Throughout the fleet, hidden systems activated. The swarm had evolved to consume technology, to adapt and grow stronger from every civilization it devoured. But humanity had studied the ancient records. They knew the swarm's greatest strength was also its critical weakness. The weapons they'd built weren't designed to destroy the swarm through brute force. They were carriers for an engineered virus, one that would turn the swarm's adaptive nature against itself. Multiple swarm vessels showing signs of systematic failure. Tactical reported. The virus is spreading through their neural networks, but they're adapting faster than simulations predicted. Chen had expected this. The swarm had survived millions of years by overcoming every defense thrown against it. But humanity had learned from the past. They didn't need to win. They just needed to hold out long enough. Launch the seed ships, she ordered. All units fall back to secondary positions. From the belly of each human warship, smaller vessels emerge. They looked harmless, barely armed. The swarm ignored them, focusing on the larger threats. That was their final mistake. The seed ships carried something the ancient civilizations had never conceived, a synthetic ecosystem designed to transform the swarm's biological components from within. Not to destroy them, but to change them. Seed ships in position, Tactical announced. Initiating broadcast. Across the battlefield, the seed ships began transmitting on frequencies that resonated with the swarm's neural networks. Not attacking, but communicating, offering something the swarm had never encountered in all its eons of consumption, an alternative. The effect was immediate and stunning. Swarm vessels began to convulse, their organic components restructuring themselves. Some fought against the change, destroying themselves in the process. Others began to split apart, forming smaller, independent entities. It's working, Chen's science officer breathed. The synthetic ecosystem is taking hold. The swarm isn't being destroyed. It's evolving into something new. But victory came with a price. The assembly's long-range sensors would have detected everything. Their hidden fleet, their advanced technology, their violation of countless restrictions, all of it would soon be known. Admiral, communications reported, we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command. The Assembly Security Council is demanding an explanation. They're calling for an emergency session to discuss human violations of galactic law. Chen looked at her tactical display, watching as the remnants of the swarm transformed into something no longer focused on consumption, but on coexistence. Sometimes, she reflected, the greatest victories came not from destruction, but from transformation. Perhaps that principle applied not just to the swarm, but to the galaxy's understanding of humanity as well. Send a message to Earth Command, she ordered. Tell them we're ready to explain everything. But remind them that when the galaxy faced extinction, it wasn't their regulations that saved them. It was humanity's willingness to break them. As the Prometheus turned toward assembly space, Chen wondered if the galaxy was ready for the truth, not just about the swarm, but about humanity's role as secret guardians of civilization itself. The coming days would test not just diplomacy, but the very foundation of galactic society. Strength through unity. The Assembly's grand chamber had never been this crowded. Representatives from every spacefaring species packed the vast amphitheater, their attention fixed on the holographic display showing footage from the battle against the swarm. Ambassador Walsh stood calmly at the center, Admiral Chen beside her, as the evidence of humanity's secret preparations played out above them. For 3 centuries, Walsh began, humanity explored the ruins of dead civilizations. We found not just warnings about the swarm, but a pattern. Species that faced them alone perished. Those that tried to fight them conventionally were consumed. The only ones who left records were those who understood that survival required preparation, innovation, and the courage to act decisively. High Counselor Zixtel's crystalline form pulsed with complex emotions. You built a secret fleet, developed prohibited technologies, stationed forces throughout assembly space without authorization. The scale of these violations is nothing compared to the scale of extinction we prevented. Chen interrupted. The swarm didn't just threaten humanity. It threatened all sapient life. We chose to bear the burden of preparation because our history taught us the price of complacency. The chamber erupted in overlapping arguments. Some delegates called for sanctions against Earth. Others demanded access to human technology. A few even suggested humanity should be expelled from the assembly entirely. Admiral Chorus raised his hands for silence. Before we judge, consider this. When the swarm came, whose ships stood against it? When our weapons failed, whose technology succeeded? Perhaps instead of condemning humanity's methods, we should ask why they felt compelled to act in secret. The argument shifted. Delegates began sharing stories of colonies saved by the hidden human fleet, of evacuation corridors protected by ships that shouldn't have been there. The pattern was clear. Humanity hadn't just prepared for war, they'd positioned themselves to protect as many species as possible. What happened to the swarm? A Moravian delegate asked. The transformed remnants, are they still a threat? Chen activated a new holographic display. It showed clusters of the former swarm organisms, now radically different in structure and behavior. They're evolving into a symbiotic collective rather than a consuming one. Our synthetic ecosystem didn't just stop them, it gave them an alternative path. They're developing consciousness, culture, even art. They're becoming something new. Just as humanity hopes the assembly will become something new. Walsh added. We don't ask you to abandon your principles of peace and cooperation. We ask you to understand that sometimes protecting those principles requires strength. Not just the strength to fight, but the strength to change. High Counselor Zixtal's colors shifted thoughtfully. You speak of change. What exactly are you proposing? Walsh smiled. A new division within the Assembly. One that combines human military doctrine with Assembly diplomatic principles. A force that doesn't just react to threats, but prepares for them. One that brings together the best of all our species' capabilities. You want us to adopt human military philosophy? Someone asked skeptically. No, Chen corrected. We want to create something new together. Humanity's drive to protect combined with Assembly wisdom. Centaurian tactical brilliance merged with Moravian biotechnology. Quintari energy manipulation enhanced by Petrovaran engineering. Not just a military force, but a testament to what we can achieve through true cooperation. The chamber grew quiet as the implications sank in. This wasn't just about military policy. It was about transforming how the galaxy's species interacted with each other. There will need to be oversight, Zixtal said finally. Protocols. Boundaries. Agreed. Walsh nodded. But real ones, based on practical necessity rather than fear. The galaxy is vast and full of wonders, but also dangers. We're stronger together than apart. The voting took hours, but in the end, the outcome was clear. The Assembly would change. Human ships would no longer need to hide in the shadows. A new era of galactic cooperation would begin. As the session ended, Admiral Chorus approached Chen and Walsh. You knew this would happen, he said. Not just the swarm, but this moment. This was your real victory. The victory belongs to all of us, Chen replied. Humanity never wanted to stand apart from the galaxy. We just needed the galaxy to understand why we stand ready. Far above the Assembly world, human ships now patrolled openly alongside vessels from other species. Their crews were beginning to mix, sharing knowledge and experiences. And in the depths of space, the transformed swarm entities were starting to reach out, seeking contact, ready to join the galactic community they had once threatened. The galaxy was changing, but then that had been humanity's gift all along. Not just the strength to fight, but the vision to see how conflict could lead to transformation, and the courage to guide that change toward something better. Together, they would face whatever challenges the universe had yet to reveal. Not as separate species bound by rules and restrictions, but as a unified force guided by shared purpose and mutual understanding. The era of hiding was over. The age of true cooperation had begun.